This is the 501 Coroner Backroads, where the road slows down and the stories are still waiting, right where they've always been. Now let's get going. Hey folks, today's episode of A Coroner's Backroads does not involve an actual backroad, not unless you count the dangerous winding trail between the parking lot and the hostess stand at El Muelles, also known around here as the Wharf. Yesterday I met up with two old friends of mine for what was supposed to be a simple happy hour, just a little cold beer, good conversation, and maybe some chips and salsa, innocent enough. Three grown adults enjoying a civilized afternoon. That was the original plan anyway. Now these two ladies are longtime friends and they're absolutely hilarious together. We got seated in one of those big wooden tables with enough nautical decorations to make you feel like you ought to order shrimp whether you wanted it or not. They sat together on one side of the booth and I sat across from them, which turned out to be the perfect position to observe what unfolded next. At first, everything was normal. We were laughing, telling stories, cutting up, talking about life, and probably solving several world problems that nobody important will ever listen to. Then suddenly, right in the middle of a sentence I was telling, both of their heads turned at exactly the same time. Not one after the other, at the exact same time. Then their eyes moved together. Then their heads turned again together. Then both leaned slightly forward like a pair of hunting dogs catching a scent. I stopped talking mid-sentence because, honestly, it startled me a little. I thought maybe a celebrity had walked in, or maybe there was a fight, or possibly some young, good-looking waiter built like a romance novel cover model had wandered through the dining room in tight jeans and poor judgment. But no, it was food. These women were not people watching, they were plate watching. Every single time a server came out carrying food, their heads tracked it in synchronized motion, like heat-seeking missiles. Left, right, pause, follow through. I swear they looked like one of those synchronized swimming teams from the Olympics. They were both seated in a booth holding Modelos. And here's the strange part. Neither one of them had to say anything to the other. They somehow communicated telepathically. One would slightly raise an eyebrow, and the other would already be turning toward the incoming fajitas. It was like watching wildlife documentaries. Finally, one plate went by, and one of them whispered with absolute determination, "I want something in a pineapple." Now, I don't know exactly what food comes in a pineapple, but apparently it exists, and apparently it had become the mission. That's when the other one spotted what I can only describe as a wooden serving plank carrying enough food to feed a Baptist church softball team. They called it a charcuterie. I don't know why you say that word. I don't hardly know how to spell it. Where I come from, we call that a board with a bunch of expensive snacks piled on it. This thing had meats, cheeses, fruit, sauces, crackers, and little decorative greenery sticking out of it like landscaping. It looked less like an appetizer and more like a catered parole hearing. I asked how much one of those things cost and nearly swallowed an ice cube when they told me $158 for a board. Now, for that kind of money, where I grew up, the board itself ought to become your property after the meal, possibly with mineral rights attached. But those two women stared at that thing like archaeologists discovering buried treasure. I knew right then this was no longer just a happy hour. This had become a planning session. And I can already tell you what is going to happen. We're going back. Oh, yes. There will be more Modelo, more laughter, more synchronized food surveillance, and sooner or later there is absolutely going to be one of those giant Wharf board thingies sitting in the middle of that table, while those two grin like outlaws who just pulled off a successful heist. And, honestly, watching old friends laugh that hard over beer, food, and absolutely nothing important at all, well, at this age, that's about as good as life gets. Y'all be kind to each other, okay? And let's cruise on down to the wharf.